Welcome to episode 2 of If Kent Can Design a Camera from Scratch. If you didn't see episode 1, let me catch you up. We started by talking about the state of current cameras and how I think they're boring. We then found the original stereoscopic camera, which is what this camera is modeled after. We bought all the parts we're gonna need. We built a prototype housing out of Legos. We brainstormed ideas for what the camera could do on top of the main idea. We wrote our first few lines of code. We assembled all of the parts into a version 1 of the stereoscopic camera, and we finished by taking the first photo. In this episode, I'm gonna be designing what the camera's gonna look like, coming up with crazy ideas, and trying to fit the camera into its first ever proper housing. This is gonna be a good one. I hope you enjoy. My name is Kent. I'm a filmmaker, and I like to tell stories about my journey through life. I'm a Gen Z product of the internet. I like to meme, stream, dream, repeat. Meme, stream, dream, repeat. Stop. This is my show. Bliss. Wait, who gave you a show? You suck. Me. Man, am I excited to be back on this project. To be honest, I wasn't sure what it was gonna take to get me back because it's been so long since I've done this, but okay. Point of this here is journal. There's so many things I need to do for this project, but I feel like I need to start picking things to focus on that are actually gonna push me forward. Printy McPrinty face, it is time for your return. This is kind of night 1 of part 2. Tonight's focus is entirely on getting my lenses lined up. Okay. So as I dusted off my 3D printer and added new filament, changed out the nozzle, did a few minor adjustments that are gonna help it get back to full quality, I realized I never told you the story of this printer. I actually built this thing by hand, and not only just put the pieces together like a kit, the screws, the glue, the solder, the wiring, the case, the cage, the whole build, I did by hand. I went to a really interesting college that allowed me to take really interesting courses. And one of the classes I took was a 3D printing class. Now, we didn't exactly have a perfect teacher for this class, so the school flew in a guy named Lottie who owned a 3D printing company. He was only there for a couple of days, and the days that he was there, we spent almost the entire day in the 3D printing lab, building, printing, designing, learning everything we possibly could from this guy. I look back and it's some of the most fond memories I have because what a random but interesting topic to get into. And once that class ended, the printer moved to my dorm room where I would print things for my videos, fix my cameras, print stuff for around my room. And then once I moved, it came with me to California. And then it came back to Maryland with me in my new apartment. And then we moved again to Ohio where I was printing there. And now it's here, in downtown Cleveland, where I live now. Printy McPrinty face has really been with me for such a long time. The memories, the prints. I get asked every so often, why do you have a 3D printer? And to be honest, there isn't really that great of a reason to have one. To me, it was just such a fun hobby, a thing that I could just have in my back pocket that whenever I wanted something to come into the 3-dimensional world, I could create it. And moving forward on this channel, I have so many video ideas that involve it that it's almost like a key part of my setup. So that's where my 3D printer came from. It's hard to explain how I feel right now because I had a dental procedure yesterday and this whole side of my face is just in a lot of pain. But we trudge on because I love this project and I'm loving just pushing forward, so we're just gonna continue doing that. So today, Jamie, myself, and the family are gonna go to an apple orchard and pick apples, because that's what you do in the fall. It's also the only thing you can do outside, so whether that's, moving forward, we're gonna have a great time. The other thing I wanna focus on is taking this camera with me, not with the microphone and stuff, and then trying to recreate my own photos by just having the subject stand still and doing a little movement myself. I feel as if that's gonna work. And the reason is, if nothing else is moving in the frame, the parallax can still exist from editing. I think obviously the dream is going to be having it so that all the photos take at the exact same moment. So for example, if Jamie threw up an apple the apple would just freeze in the air as the camera moved. I think that this step is gonna help me learn to take these photos better and learn this type of photo better. So if I'm gonna build one of the first digital versions of this camera, I should definitely know how it works and be good at it. Okay, let's go pick apples. Let's go pick some apples. I'm so low energy, I'm gonna die. So I'm walking around trying to figure out how to take these photos perfectly, and I can't decide if you need to be like closer in or further away. Especially because one of the things I'm afraid I'm gonna need to code in, the ability to pick a center point. Like, does the apple need to be in the center and then the photo move around and it like locks on the apple? Or is every photo, am I gonna be able to just say, line up on the center point? I don't understand how to do any sort of image recognition or AI. If that's the case, I'm screwed. It feels so good to be outside though. I haven't been outside at all this year. You found one singular apple.
Because it's my favorite kind of apple.
Hold this, I got you. Just for you, darling.
Thanks.
The only apple in the whole place. I got a little ka-ching. Here you go. Okay, here we go. Learnings from the orchard. Learnings from the orchard. Immediately the first thing I figured out is this is a portrait photo camera. Meaning it is kind of just for taking images of people and things. Anything wide, the wiggle just looks off, and like, well, you don't really want a landscape to wiggle. You want a human who's like, looks like they're like mid-move of something. Now, I more or less knew that, but it was just kind of helpful to identify that. I spent the rest of the day getting all of the measurements right so that I could line these lenses up perfectly. And I figured it out. It took many tries. Now it is time to create the design. And for this, we must take out our design brains. Well, think lion, think tiger, rawr, mountain, ooh, birds, ooh, flying. No, I'm a whale. Oh, underwater. None of this is sticking out to me. Forget it. Let's go up. I'm a drone. I'm in New York City. I'm a road. I'm a taxi. I'm a building. Ooh, I like buildings. I like modern buildings. What if it's a square modern building and I'm like, ooh, shifty modern building. What does modern make me think of? This camera. We've done it. We've done it. We've done it. You know what, guys? I like dreaming with you. Let's do this more. Okay, I apologize for how loud the 3D printer is in the back, but I'm here at my like kind of camera collection, which I wouldn't necessarily call myself like a camera collector. These are cameras that have more or less ended up in my lap or have been a part of my journey. This camera here is the Canon AE1. This was my dad's film camera, and this here was the camera strap, either that came with it or was his camera strap. I just keep this around because it's such a cool, I don't know, vibe. Yeah, I literally don't even know how this works. But what I like, it's a very clear story about where cameras came from, right? Like you have the solid body, which was to hold film, and you can see the way it's rounded off, it's like the size of a film strip. And then a lens that mounts on the front and is interchangeable. Obviously there will be no interchangeable lenses with this camera, but I think that this is probably a familiar shape that I'm gonna go for. These are my two vlogging cameras. I wish I had all the rest of them. I don't even know where they ended up, but this was the literal first camera that I started the vlog on, and this one came up in the Casey Neistat era. You can see all of the engravings on it. You should just be able to hold it out like that. These two, the lens is off center. I don't know if I love that. And I definitely am gonna have to have it bigger than this because it's gotta fit a Raspberry Pi. Here is an interesting camera. This is a Polaroid camera for like thick chunkers. Let's see if I can take one really quick. There is photos in there. Okay, my 3D print just failed. I don't know what to do. This is not good. This is bad. I'm gonna stop this. The cameras are fucking broken. I burned them. I killed them. No. I burnt the cameras. They're broken. I broke potentially all 4 of them. Fuck. Here's my plan. I'm gonna test each individual camera separately and see if they're still burnt, because I'm not convinced that they're burnt. The internet is telling me they're burnt, but if, please, no. Oh, hey, 3D printer, cameras. It seems like you guys are both freaking out. If you could just not. I was thinking, what if I just give you the night off? You know, you take the night off, you take the night off. 3D printer, you can stop runaway overheating, which is probably the most terrifying error of all time. And then cameras, if you could just not be so burnt out, that would be awesome. So I'll leave you to it. I'll come back to you tomorrow. So that was mostly a joke, but at the same time, everything works now. So yay! Okay, final steps. I'm going to create a quick wireframe to just hold the Raspberry Pi camera together. It's been so annoying just like fumbling around with this thing. So this takes me all the way back to high school math, drawing a wireframe for this camera just so everything fits. Each lens needs a hole of 9.5 millimeters, and the distance between them needed is 16 millimeters to account for the green chip that's on the back of it. Only 8 millimeters is needed on each side, and then 4 millimeters for the thickness of each wall. The total height of the chip is 25 millimeters. You need to leave 4 millimeters for the cable and then 4 millimeters on each side for the 3D print. Moving on to the side. The Raspberry Pi is somewhere around 58 millimeters, so 60 millimeters height should be plenty. Looking down at the top, 20 millimeters for the thickness of the Raspberry Pi, and then again 4 millimeters for each edge. I did one more check through all of the Raspberry Pi measurements and then just went for the final design. Translating this into SketchUp should be pretty easy since I have a basic understanding of 3D modeling design, especially because I don't need to do circles, but let's just give it a go. This is exciting. I actually have a version 1 of the print ready to go. Only issue, the outline of the camera, just the frame. And this is like no design. This is like clunky, gross, nasty looking. It is going to take 11 hours to print this. What if I chop the back off? I'm gonna chop the back off real quick. I'll be right back. Chopped the back off. It took an hour off, so it was worth it. That's the advice of the video. Cut your back off. All right, nothing left to do but print this thing. Good morning. The print is done. Screw doing a little intro. Let's just go look at it. Wow, this is so cool. So this is nuts to be holding what I'm holding right now. Like, you can see I got V2 2020 written on there. I had to count the first rendition of where we had the back fully on there as V1. So this is V2 with no back. And if you're like, wait, there is a back and it's all filled in. Here, I'm gonna let you look really close at all of this. So all of this stuff in here that looks like an accordion is called support material. We printed this print on its back. So pretend the back is me. All of this stuff. So it went layer by layer this way. To get this flat bit at the top to be stable, there's nothing underneath it theoretically. When we cut all this out, you'll see it would just be floating, and well, it's impossible to print just floating material. So it does this back and forth accordion stuff, which, if you hear it, we can pretty easily break this stuff off so that essentially we've just got a giant like wire frame of a camera of sorts. And then theoretically all of this is gonna go well, and we can start doing some really fun designing to make a version of this, well, that looks cool, because this doesn't look that cool, if I'm honest. And I want a handle, I want to hold this thing. Let's go cut the support out and then revisit this. Not only are my fingers all cut up raw and bleeding a little bit, I broke the back, I broke the front off, I broke the supports. I bet I could hot glue this all back together and that would be dope, but damn. Okay, so the hot glue process was actually kind of successful. As you can see, we are definitely a little bit wonky and kind of crazy. The point of this is truly to just have a frame to hold everything. How cool is it that I just like have a version, I guess 2 of my camera. It's just kind of wild. So in total, I think my printer is done about 40 plus hours of printing on this project alone. And I've spent countless hours in SketchUp, just designing, redesigning, taking it apart, adding new ideas. I included so many fun little bits of that ideation process in this, like the mountains and the buildings. For some reason, I was able to create something that I felt like resembled that in a way that I think would be cool. So let's start with the wireframe. With the camera all added in there, this is what that looks like here. So as you can see, 4 lenses on the front. We've got the ribbon cables coming in the top so that all of the lenses just sit right in there on their little shelf that we printed in there. Looking awesome. And then I had to use some tape. I really should have put a bottom on. Remember how I was like, oh, take the back off. Yeah, taking the back off was maybe not the best idea I've ever had. But moving on, I've got tape and popsicle sticks holding the actual Raspberry Pi itself in there, but other than that, like it's actually in there and that's so exciting. So this now will be super easy to just plug everything in on my desktop and I can just get to work. Now, for my concept design, here is that camera. So I scaled it down a little bit, but look, on the top, we've got this like geometric mountain looking range. I thought this was such a cool use of the top instead of just flat. But what if the shutter button looked like one of these mountains on the top? What is this called? The thing you would look through? If you held the camera up to your eye, that's what it would be. I don't know, I love it. Couple little like ribbons up here. I don't know, those reminded me of the Instagram logo. The lens on the front being this like geometric shape that's been shifted. I thought that would be such a cool way to do a new version of the lens that's currently on this if it was just like a little shifted, but all of the lenses were still lined up perfectly. The back is pretty straightforward for now. It's just simple and same with the bottom, but just, it's crazy. I'm holding my camera. I feel like this is some true progress we have made, and especially this, being able to just put this down on the bench, plug everything in code from there. In the next episode, we are going to be creating the final version of this to put all of these pieces into. We are going to be getting this camera to work perfectly, more or less. I am just obsessed with this series. It's really a project for me and I'm just having the time of my life. So if you're enjoying this, thank you for just supporting me on my adventure. I'd love to know any and all of your guys' ideas for this project. If you think it's cool, like let me know in the comments. Please hit subscribe if this is one of your first videos of mine. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you. Finish that art, follow your dreams, and I will see you next Wednesday. Peace.